Hello, everybody.
Hello and welcome to TechNow, the web series for ServiceNow administrators and developers. I am Chuck Tomasi, and sitting right across the virtual table from me is, let's go with Craig Stepp first.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
We'll do our formal introductions when we get to our introduction slides. Also joining us, as always, is Dave Slusher. How are you, Dave?
Hello, everybody.
We have our final topic before Knowledge 17, and we are really busy. So this is wedging in, a playing card between the big slabs of concrete that is our day job, but it's fun nevertheless.
I like that analogy.
I was trying to be visual as possible there. Let us go to the deck. First, we lock the screen. Then we share the screen. Then we get onto the presentation. You are sharing your screen. You guys see that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Hopefully, whoops, wrong way.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Hopefully, we're monitoring that on YouTube as well, and it looks all nice and presentable.
Yeah, it looks great on YouTube.
All right. Today, we are here to talk about JSON, one of those things that keeps coming up, especially around integrations, that we're going to start you out with some very, very basic knowledge. And there's one other thing I want to make sure. Do we have the avatars up there, Dave? Or
avatars are up right now, yes.
Avatars are up. Let's see if I can stop that.
So, Chuck, be sure to tell us, who is this JSON guy and what does he do here?
Maybe that'll stop the avatars. Don't know yet. Who is this JSON guy? We're going to talk about him real quick. I know some people say JSON, some people say Jason.
Jason.
If we still have avatars, well, I'm going to the still shot.
They're still there, yes.
I muted my mic instead. Wrong icon. All right. To start things out, real quick introductions. I am Chuck Tomasi, Platform Architect in the Platform Practice team. I work to support our solution consultants in the pre-sales team. Been around a long time. I think I need to change that slide. I'm closer to 35 years of experience now, if not over. And a lot of stuff in IT, and then came to ServiceNow after being a customer for a couple of years. Then went to Knowledge 10, which seems like decades ago in ServiceNow years. Co-host TechNow for the last 4 years. We're now past our 4-year anniversary, working on our 5th year of content. Woohoo! And co-host with Dave Slusher and Josh Narius on Live Coding Happy Hour. So you can find me in the community, among other places. Watch for the bow tie if you're going to Knowledge. Who's up next? Craig's up next.
Oh, look at there. That beautiful face.
Only a mother could love.
Hey, well, I'll have to ask my mom. So, yeah, I'm a senior curriculum developer. And I'm currently working on some cloud classes right now. So look forward to that coming up. I specialize in cloud automation. And as a matter of fact, I'm working on it for Knowledge. If you go to Knowledge and you go to one of the labs and you're working on a virtual machine, chances are I had something to do with
and
it.
Eric.
That's right. And Dave thought my new hire anniversary was yesterday. I thought it was today. You said it was tomorrow.
Surf says tomorrow.
Plus or minus 2-day margin of error. Hey, it's my 3-year anniversary at ServiceNow.
Well, send you a card.
That's right.
Last but not least.
Hi, I'm Dave Slusher. I'm a developer evangelist in the platform business unit. Developer.servicenow.com is where I apply my trade. 20 years, mostly a full stack developer until I got to ServiceNow. About a year and a half, actually, at this point now, since I've been developer evangelist. As Chuck said, I've been a co-host of TechNow for about a year and a half. And all of us are very early podcasters. That's actually, we've known each other for almost a decade before we started working together. So,
do you miss the full stack stuff, Dave?
I get just enough to not miss it, really. I mean, that's one of the reasons, we do inside our group, we kind of standardize on Node tools when they exist. We do just enough Node to kind of make me not miss it. So no, not. Although honestly, if I ever get a minute, I might set up a Android development environment and start playing with that.
Node is like his nicotine patch.
It would actually be fun.
Yeah.
I would like to just do an arbitrary mobile app that consumes a scripted REST API. That would be a thing I would like to do, post knowledge.
You can make that happen.
All right. Speaking of knowledge, good segue there. This is our last advertisement on TechNow for knowledge. We want to see you there May 7th through 12th at the OC Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. There is still time to sign up. I know all the early bird specials have gone, but there's room in pre-con training. I'm doing a pre-con training class in application creation. Hope to see you there. And if you're not in pre-con, well, then you'll find all of us hanging around the developer hub at CreatorCon.
Yeah, the next ad you see for our convention will be Knowledge 18.
We're gonna have to just cross out the 17 because we won't have a pencil yet.
Yeah.
I know. We'll take a picture of that banner that's always hanging there on the way out.
Yeah, just cross it out.
We'll know when and where when we get there. So we are doing 2 live sessions of TechNow Tuesday in the Developer Theater from 12:40 to 1:20, both Tuesday and Wednesday. Day 1 is going to be building applications at light speed, no code and pro code. And no code and low code. Day 2 will be the pro code stuff. So we're doing the beginner intermediate stuff on day 1. We're going to build out a full app in front of your eyes from the moment we hit create app in Studio right through to the final push to the GitHub repo.
I thought you said loco there for a minute, by the way.
Loco? Yes. We will be building a loco application.
That's right.
I want to start out with our community quick tip before we get into the blood and guts of JSON. And this is about good field naming practices. What might seem very simple and pretty blasé on the surface has gotten me into trouble as I was writing that application for the CreatorCon theater. I ran into a problem. I said, oh my gosh, I have to share this. It's too good not to. What I was doing was creating a many-to-many table with a couple of reference fields on it, one for user, as you see on the bottom, that goes to the sys user table, and another one for my event table. Now, the event table is scoped. It's like x_meetup_event. Event is kind of a dangerous word in ServiceNow because this table is going to link those two fields together with the many-to-many. There's an example of the event, reminding me my wife's birthday is on Sunday. And what happens is when I got to the notification, it was trying to use the field name event.shortDescription because I extended tasks to make that event table. Well, guess what? Event is a reserved word. I spent about 2 hours trying to figure this out. Why I wasn't getting any output down below. It says, you are invited to nothing, which is usually the case.
Right.
But why doesn't it say you are invited to Donna's birthday party? Well, that's debatable. But the answer is event is a special keyword in notifications. So I encourage you, when I got to the invitation, it looked like this. My preview is broke. What's going on? The subject and the body are both empty. What happened was I finally recognized, and my wife confirmed this later. She just said, is that a reserved word? I said, yes, it is.
I like how she found it out for you.
Yeah, after I'd already solved the problem.
Yeah.
Be aware that you want to avoid field names of current, previous, response, request, event. A lot of those common built-in object names can get you in trouble if you don't plan ahead. So my fix was to use the legacy U_ thing. When you're building the many-to-many definition, said, oh, it wants to call the field event. If I put a U_ in here, it works great, and I never have any more problems. And just to be balanced, I also called it U_user, even though that was not an issue. So be aware of that. I mean, if I called it event 1, it wouldn't have been a problem. Well, maybe it would have been. I don't know. Event 1 might come up somewhere. But it's one of those things that now that we have scoped apps and you can call your fields anything you want, you may inadvertently be calling them things that are the name of the built-in objects. So that can get you in trouble. So that's my community quick tip for this week. On to understanding JSON. You can find all of our show notes and all of our descriptions and links to every one of these going back to 2013. Wow, we haven't been doing this that long. At the bit.ly link there, click on episode 37 and you'll find these slides shortly after we post this show. So the purpose is JSON. And as Craig said, some people say Jason. And that's the first thing that came up was Jason Voorhees from the horror movies.
That's right.
And he's thinking about JSON. So that's what we want to do, is kind of clear up what is what.
It's
when you
befuddled
see
him
one of
so
these-
he's not hacking and slashing somebody. Slows him down a
That's
little
what he could. Hey, maybe that's the new icon we need for Hack Labs and Hack Zone and Hackathon.
bit. Right.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to talk about what exactly is JSON, some simple examples, build on those to make more complex examples, and then give you some reference information where you can go find out more. This is probably not going to be our longest TechNow ever, but it's important that you understand this. First of all, JSON is text. The only thing you can send across the internet is text, whether it's HTML, JavaScript, CSS, the payload to something in XML or JSON format. That's all what you can send across. It's great for making system A talk to system B through an integration. It's also good for passing information maybe between functions, and we'll look at how you do that. Stands for, of course, of course,
It's easy for you to say.
object notation. And emphasis on that object is what we're going to be getting into. It's a way to represent these complex objects in a representation. And as we were talking about this in the pre-show, Dave came up with, I already talked about that, complex data structures. Traditionally, we've passed information back via XML. And if you've ever gone to any record on ServiceNow, right-click and do Show XML, you will see XML. And it says a tag that says number and a close tag that says /number. And in between is INC, blah, blah, blah. Pretty easy to read, and you can put in some parameters around that, but it can be difficult to manage with your larger payloads. The tools to create it and manage it, it can be a bit complex. However, what's the advantage of that, Dave?
The advantage
XML has over JSON.
Oh, that if you absolutely need to have validity, if you need to control the schema and make sure that you have, say, a certain number of things, if you need it referenced against an external schema, you can do that with XML. Whereas JSON doesn't even have out of the box. JSON has no ability to do that.
Exactly. So it is better for validating that information, but it is a little trickier to construct and build and whatnot. For simplistic things like, I'm doing a Glide Ajax call, send me back 3 records with 3 fields in them. That's probably a better application for JSON than XML. But in that case, you're actually sending back both because they're not mutually exclusive. You can pass a JSON object in an XML payload. So when I use that answer tag in a Glide Ajax query, go back and watch episodes 5, 6, and 33 if you want more information. It's scary how I know some of these episode numbers by heart now.
I know. I was just like, wait a minute. How do you know that? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
For anybody who's ever started a fresh Java project, and one of the decisions you have to make is which XML parser and what parsing scheme you want to use, and it actually can be kind of nightmarish sometimes to try to wade through some of that stuff. So JSON absolutely has simplicity in its favor.
Glad I haven't gone down that path. Thanks for the warning. Okay, so simple variables, simple data types, strings, integers, booleans, that kind of thing are very easy to, say, pass back from a function. If our name is Chuck and I want to return that back to a calling function, I simply return name and the string gets passed back. The issue becomes, what do you do when you have 2 things you want to pass back? Or return to another system via integration, or from the server to the client script. This is where you need some complex way of representing those 2 pieces of data in one object, and that's exactly what it is. I would create a person object with the curly brace notation and say it has a property name with a value Chuck and a property age with a value of 32. Notice 32 is not quoted, so it represents a true integer. I don't have to do any type checking and converting and whatnot. And when I return person, it's an object. Exactly the same kind of thing what you get when you say var inc equals new glide record incident. Inc is now an object. It's instantiated from that class glide record. This is just declared straight up front. So I have a way of passing multiple things back and forth with this object notation. And you can put in there all your standard data types, strings, booleans, integers, floating points, arrays, even embedded objects, which we will look at in a little bit. Very complex information to exchange back and forth. And The trick becomes, how do you get at that information? How do you convert your object to a string to an object, and make use of that information inside? And we will show you that. Converting these things back and forth. Did I get it right this time? Yes, it's encode and decode. In Helsinki and up, which uses ECMAScript 5, we use the standard JSON.stringify on an object to turn it into a literal string representation of that object. And if you've got a string and want to turn it into the object, the reverse operation is JSON.parse. Prior to that, we had some built-in things called with the JSON script include for encode and decode. If you see those, you'll know what's going on. Now, if you're using them in a scoped app, you have to global.json. It's starting to get a little long in the tooth, and I'd rather use the modern stuff myself. I know it's just going to work. So this is where we go to the demo. And I had to do this in JSON format. I couldn't resist. There are 6 examples coming up. I am going to jump to my personal developer instance, and I am in scripts background. And the first thing I wanted to show you was, I'm not going to make you watch me type. I have macros again at my disposal. That there is a person object. This one only has one property. So effectively, it's the same as saying var name equals Chuck. But I access information within that object by saying gs.info, which will print output to the screen. Person.name is person object, name property. We look at that, and I expect to get Chuck out of that. Yay! Applause all around. That was. I'm starting very simple on purpose. In case somebody's never seen an object before, they're new to scripting, they're new to JavaScript, this will help get them started. Second example is, you guessed it, TN37-2. I'm going to add 2 properties to the person object. And now notice I've gone from a one-line notation to a multi-line notation. This indentation can help you read it and decipher how deep into that object you are, because you may be within an array, within an object, within another array, and that can help straighten things up. So the actual truth is I was not 34 or whatever I said on that other slide. I am actually 52 as of a few weeks ago. And I can get person.name, which is what I did before. Chuck is person.age is the age property. So you kind of get how I'm getting this out of person name and person age. And when I get it, I should sort of see that Chuck is 52. Any questions so far?
And one thing you might want to point out, Chuck, if you back up, that the dot notation is kind of interchangeable with the bracket reference notation.
Yes, there is a way to do this. It makes itself, I don't know if this is the right term or not, but you can do this kind of notation, which is more of a hash array, where normally you see arrays in square brackets have numerical indexes, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a way of using strings to get those indexes. It will do the same thing. Good point. We're not going to go too deep into that. The advantage is here, if you've got a variable that contains a key or a name of a property, the property name itself is a variable. You can index it this way. So I could say var key equals name, and then say, put that variable in here. So if you're going through a loop and you want to know what keys are in this object and what are their values, yeah, that's a pretty slick way of doing it.
Yeah, I do a lot of PHP coding, and that's kind of the way I address arrays, elements in an array, either by the key or sometimes by the name, depending on, the type of array it is.
Right. I did the explicit example first. This gets a little more obscure, but still very important to know that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a little confusing at first. What was I on? Number 3? 37-3. Our next candidate up for auction, same object, but now I'm creating an object or an array within that object. And it gets a little crazy. So it says person.children is going to be an array. And I am creating an object called child1. This isn't the most optimal way. I'm doing this very explicitly on purpose. I could declare this all in the person object, but we're starting with the same object. We put an array. We put 2 objects into the array with a push operation. And these are actually my real children's names and ages. And what I'm going to do is represent that object with stringify. I'm going to print it out as it's represented internally. So you get an idea of what's going on. Here is Chuck's name and age. Here is the children array from here to here. And within that, I've got the first element is this one, name and age. And the second one is this. Now you look at that and go, gosh, this is getting a little hard to read. What I have done in the past is go to a JSON beautifier. Just look for JSON beautifier in Google, and one of these comes up. And you can paste in this big, ugly screen, process it. We'll also validate it to say if it's valid or not. And now you get a little more readable notation.
And you can collapse it if you need to.
You can collapse it and say, collapse that, collapse that. I know I have two objects in here. I know this is an array, which is what I originally declared. And then I put two objects in with the push operation. Kind of fun. It makes it a little more readable.
It's fun until your wife realizes that you left her off the list.
She's not one of my children. I could put spouse on there.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So what's our next step? Is it getting a little too deep here yet?
No, take us further, Chuck.
37-4. All right. So here is that same object I had before, but I'm declaring it as a string. Let's say I just got this from an integration. I've got a string. I need to turn into an object I can use within JavaScript. That's done with JSON.parse. So I can take a string and turn it into an actual person object. Notice the variable names, person string. I cannot dot walk into person string dot name. It doesn't exist. Person string dot length, that's a different issue because it's got string properties on it. Once I do the parse, it's an object in the person, and I can get at the name like we did before. Person.name is still going to be Chuck. Now, note that if I don't have any children element in there, this part will be skipped. This is a good practice. Don't assume you will have an array and start going through it, or you'll get a bunch of, hey, this is undefined, and your log will fill up with bad warnings, and you won't get any output and wonder why. If you do a check before you use it, you'll know it's there. So I'm saying if I have a person.children thing in here, it could be a string, it could be an array, it could be another object, I don't know, but just tell me if there's something there. If it does, then I'm going to go into that array, and I have to iterate through the entire length of that, just like a normal for loop would do. Instead of saying I less than 10 or I less than 3, I'm using the length of the person.child array. Remember, person.children is an array. This is going to come up with a length of 2. It goes through and says child 0 is, and then it will print the name. This is where it starts to get a little complex, because if you look at the object, here's my array, and I've got to go, how do you get through an array? With a loop. How do I get at the name? Well, it's going to be person.children sub something, because there's the array bracket, dot name. Oh, well, that's sort of what I got here. Person.children sub I dot name. And we get person.name is Chuck, and child 0 is Julie. I don't often refer to her as my child 0. She is my oldest child.
Well, it depends on how you count. 0, 1, 2. Yeah.
Right. She learned to count binary and do Boolean algebra when she was 7 years old. Very smart child. I remember when she was 3 and her younger sister turned 1. She said, "Happy birthday, Lisa. You're not a 0 anymore." So, that's what I knew. She had a little bit of math aptitude in her head. And darn if she wouldn't make a fine programmer someday.
That's funny.
TN37-5. Where does that take us? We're going to do a REST message, and we are going to go out to this instance as an endpoint. It happens to be the 13th today, so I'm going to pass this to my little mock weather forecast, get a response back. So your response would be a bad variable name in here, because it already, a bad field name, because the variable name is going to be used. Anyway, moving on. And then print out response body and response body result temp high. And you guys tell me what's wrong with this picture. Why don't I get, there it goes. Why do I get undefined? I get back a really good response body, but there's something missing. Anyone? Anyone? Come on, we did this in rehearsal. Are you on mute?
Yeah.
The missing piece is I got back a response body string. I need to convert that to an object. So what I need is var obj, we'll just call it object. JSON. How do I make the string into an object?
Parse.
Parse response body. Then this part becomes obj.result.temp.high. And away we go. The high temperature tomorrow will be 22.
22 what?
22. Oh, good question. What unit is this passing it back?
Mm-hmm.
Celsius. The skies are sunny. The wind is from 5 directions in west northwest. I love this site because it always returns the same forecast. It's a silly scripted REST API, but away it goes. So that's what you might encounter. And again, if we look at the response that it returned, you start to get comfortable after a while with reading this, but your initial swag is, oh my gosh, what in glory's name is this thing? So if it gets a little hard to read with the curly braces and the square brackets and the whatnot, run it through a formatter and validator, and it becomes a little easier to see. I said the object, which was parsed out of the string, .result, .temp, .high. You see how I walk to that?
Mm-hmm.
Just like walking fields in ServiceNow, if you've done that before. And then, number 4, right? So we must be on number 5. That looks like the same thing. Maybe we did do number 5, or 4 and 5 are the same thing. I'll bet it's the same thing. Oh,
Hey,
yep.
by the way, you were mentioning about. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say you were talking about an online tool for beautifying your JSON, but there are tools like several of my editors. You can beautify them right on your computer.
You can, and the downside for a long time is you still have to copy and paste. And if you're given one of these responses back from here, we'll look at the next example, TN37-6. I'm going out to Wikipedia and I'm getting all the dates for on this day in history from all the events from a REST API that Wikipedia offers. And what I'm going to do is watch this. It gets a little crazy. When you get back your response body, I'm still going to do a GS info on response body. This gets really, see the scroll bar down here?
Yeah, I know,
now
right?
Go and figure out what the title of each person is. Not easy to do.
No.
And
not even if you were looking at XML, it did the same thing.
If you copy and pasted this thing into your nice, pretty formatter, boom. Well, first, I got to go take this initial thing off that said script output. Because that's not part of the actual. And then you process it. Whew. This is getting laborious, you can see. And these are real world situations that I have encountered in the last month or so. Okay, now I know that I've got an events array and each one contains text, and in there is a pages object, and I have a year. And it's like, oh man, this gets really heavy really fast. How do I get down to what does Tiger Woods do? Well, he went to the master tournament, and it was like, oof. Okay.
Runs a trucking business. I'm just kidding.
And I'm beholden to either look through this formatter or copy and paste that into my favorite text editor and look at it that way. So yeah, it's still third party, which there may be advantages to doing that if you want, because you often want to be writing your code and looking at a sample data at the same time. Not saying anything wrong with that, but there is a way to do that within. Dun, dun, dun. No, that's not what I wanted to paste. Because it was in the original 37-6. Okay. What I can do is, now that I've got the response body string, and I'm going to parse it into an actual object, I can take that object and restringify it, but I use this 3-argument notation. Here's the object, rather than just saying stringify doc. I can say null 4. Now 4 is the number of spaces, and null is a function I can use if I choose to start doing filtering. Like, don't use these tags or this property, or
Yeah.
filter out parameters in this range. You can start to massage the data as it comes back, almost like your own filter mechanism. I don't use that a whole lot, but what I do enjoy is being able to read it in my output. Let's comment out this first one that says GS info response body, just the raw string, and put that in, and I get, boom, automatically in front of my eyes. I can start dot walking this thing and determine what's an array and where I need a loop to get into this and make it happen. Now, there's no collapsy expandability part in here.
But it's much easier to read.
It is much easier to read, and it's in your instance right away. You don't have to copy it, paste it, put it in a third party, or format it, validate it. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, right.
You can easily scan through this and go, well, how does it end? Okay, everybody's got a year. So I know that in 1909, if I do event sub I.year and event sub I.text, I can start putting this into a table real easy. Very easy integration example. So the stringify 3 argument thing is very, very nice. I don't think we have that with encode and decode from the old days. I haven't looked, but I like this because it's standard and it works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really all we've got for JSON. We've taken you from basic examples, how it's represented as an object in ServiceNow in JavaScript, and this will work with client side or server side, because JSON.stringify and JSON.parse are available on both sides. And it also allows you to exchange that information as a raw string and convert it back and forth. Very easy to use.
Yeah. Once I got my head wrapped around it, it was, I mean, I'm talking like early on when I first saw it. I mean, the first time I ever saw it, I was like, what am I looking at?
Well, especially you send out a query and you get that payload back and go, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think I was
with this.
I think I was writing an integration to like SharePoint or something. And they came back with this JSON. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And come to find out, it's something that was very useful. And once you get your head wrapped around it, it makes things a lot simpler, especially building the JSON to send out on a REST API. It's great. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and like we showed you in that one example, you don't have to build it all as one JSON string. You can build pieces and parts, and that's often the way I do it within scripts. Is I'll start with an empty object, put a few properties in, and say, oh, the next property is going to be an array, or the next property is going to be an object, and that one contains an array. So you have to declare arrays and objects within the well, that's getting nasty. Within the parent object before you start populating. You can't just magically start dot walking to things that don't exist, or it's going to go, hey, you don't have a children object declared yet, or children array. Not going to happen. So that's one of the advantages there is it becomes very clear to construct. Again, play around with this. Start simple, get familiar with it, and then work your way up to more complex examples. I will be putting all of those code snippets on the blog post and in the show notes as well, so you can look forward to them there. You can follow us at the traditional places. We mentioned the community. Send us email. Find us on Twitter and Facebook. And I don't know, are we on Facebook? Haven't looked. And the TechNow content is on the, I still haven't changed this. It's now community. Somebody take a note to have me change that on the next slide, because we haven't been on Now support for a year or better.
I was going to say, that's probably what we said last time at the end of the show.
I think we did. People are going to start having a drinking game out of this show. Mistakes Chuck didn't fix since the last show. Let me get back to...
All right, gentlemen, we have a question that goes all the way back to the community quick tip.
All right.
If you are inheriting a table that has that reserved word problem, do you have any workaround strategies for that? Like, so you're extending a table, and the table that you're extending has like the event or some, it has a column named in a way that will be problematic. How do you address that?
Once a column is made in the database, it is what it is. Depending on how you're using it, if you had the case where I had, where you wanted to do the $ curly brace event dot something, I haven't found a way around that. Maybe if you can, you script around it. Send it off to a mail script and say, well, even mail has a reserved word of event. So it gets kind of nasty. I had to go and recreate that many-to-many table, but you may have to recreate your field and migrate the information from the old field to the new field.
I suppose if you, and this is again untested code off the top of my head, I suppose if you absolutely had to hack around it, you might maybe you would create a script include and pass your record to it, and then have it rewrite something.
Maybe. There are a couple of situations where there are fields called next and query. At some point, we used a condition field in the platform and called the condition field query. I can't remember if it was UI policies or something, but the condition filter field on that record is called query. And if you're doing a glide record query and you have a field called query, crazy things happen. So what we've done in the platform is create underscore query and underscore next methods. So you have a workaround that way. If you have a field called next or query, you can use those underscore methods to do your glide record add query, then glide record underscore query, just as a fix in those two situations. So that's when I knew up since about 2010 or 11. But if I have a field called event, or I have a field called request, and I'm starting to mess around with some of those scripted REST APIs where thing request and response are passed to me, that might get you in trouble.
That would be I would have to experiment with that, but I would probably maybe pass it to a script include and have it create another, like whatever field you're trying to work around, have it create, say, an underscore event field, and then you would address that from your script.
Let's see if we can hack that out and get the answer on the community as soon as possible.
I will put that up there.
It's an interesting theory. I'd love to see how it works and what we can do about that. Any other questions or comments from the audience at large?
That's it on YouTube. Let me refresh community one more time just to make sure. And I think we are good.
We are good. Then we get out a little early today.
Yay.
Craig, your camera's still off. You want to wave bye to the people?
Oh, wait a minute.
The face only emoji.
There we go. Yeah, here I am.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at CreatorCon, at Knowledge, among our other 15,000 friends.
That's right.
Craig, you will be getting there Friday or Saturday?
I'll be there Friday.
Okay. We're getting there a little early because pre-con training is Sunday and Monday, and I need to do a pre-con walkthrough, and unfortunately I can't get a flight that gets me there on time. So I'm actually going on Friday. Dave, when will you be showing up at all the festivities?
I'll be getting there Sunday afternoon. So.
Oh, you don't have pre-con training.
I do not have pre-con training.
Oh, right. But he's got a lot of setup and work to do during CreatorCon.
Absolutely.
As a reminder, if you weren't already aware of this, I know some people are hearing this for the first time. CreatorCon is not at the end of the week like it has been in years past. I think this is our third CreatorCon. We're doing this as the developer and admin event throughout Knowledge. And it's happening Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, same schedule. So you may have to make choices on your schedule builder. If you go out to the Knowledge website and you start building out your schedule, you may have to make choices of whether or not you're going to say the Service Portal Lab, Knowledge Lab, or the CreatorCon Knowledge Lab on Service Portal. The difference between those two from a macro scale is the CreatorCon sessions are going to be more technical. You will be writing Angular JS and JavaScript and client scripts to build a widget. If you go to the lab in Knowledge, you will be placing widgets on a page, doing page layout, that sort of thing. So there's two different levels that are happening here. So that's an example around Service Portal, but you kind of get the idea when it comes to integration and workflow and whatnot, the other labs that are at CreatorCon. So if you have thoughts about which should I go to, that's a good rule of thumb to follow.
Yep.
Did I miss anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that also does imply that instead of having like last year where we had the big Wednesday night party and then we had the Thursday night CreatorCon party, we're down a party.
We're
in
down.
the whole thing.
Oh darn.
I think a choice has been made for you.
It absolutely has been. So.
Means everybody will be there. The oh no, I forgot there was. Oh, we will see you the next time at the Developer Theater at CreatorCon on Tuesday, 12:40. So put it on your agenda, and we will have collector's items for distribution throughout the conference. So come find me, the guy with the tie.
Can I get one?
You have to answer a ServiceNow platform question.
Okay.
So you better bone up. This is
That's right.
not as in depth as the certified application developer exam, which is also being offered. Wow, we could go into the whole review of what's happening at CreatorCon, but that would take up all this time I'm trying to give you back.
Yeah, right. I know. Counterproductive.
Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next time live at CreatorCon, May 9th and 10th. Take care. Bye.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
See you later. Bye.